The following is a presentation of KSL Sports. First and 12. A total roundup of BYU and Utah football and the expanded Big 12 Conference. Subscribe to the First and 12 podcast. Your hosts are Mitch Harper and Alex Kirry on KSL News Radio.
Welcome to another edition. It is First and 12 right here on KSL News Radio. Every Tuesday here with you. We fly high on a Tuesday here with the college football crowd because you, of course, have Cougar Tracks every dang day right here. You can get Cougar Tracks. If you've been dipping in, by the way, with Mitch Harper and the rumor mills that have been flying around, you've got to get, if you're not subscribed already, if you're not getting those updates, if you're not getting the video stream of Cougar Tracks, you got to do it. Of course, BYU football with Kalani Sitake also comes up right after our program, but we, of course, tackle everything Big 12 related on our First and 12 program, and everything, of course, has a little bit of that local feel because right here in the great state of Utah, we've got Utah and BYU here. Mitch, what's up, man? How's the Tuesday treating you? Everything feeling good? Did you get some rest on a bye week?
Yes, there was some rest, and it was kind of a slow week in the Big 12, but there were some really good games. But it was nice to just sit back, watch all the action in the Big 12 conference. But yes, I'm ready, locked and loaded, ready to go for another week of Big 12 action here, week 4, and should be a really eventful week, I think, in the Big 12 conference this weekend.
Let's kick it all off as we always do. We're going to fire it off with the biggest headlines across the Big 12. Let's jump in right here.
12 headlines.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12.
The dozen storylines that shape this week of Big 12 football. Headline 1.
Non-conference play is starting to wind down in the Big 12. There's still a few more games left to be played, but the Big 12 has the second best record against Power League non-conference opponents at 6-6. Not bad, behind only the SEC, who's got far and away the best winning percentage, but Big 12 showing well against its Power Conference peers.
Yeah, look, and when the SEC's leaning on a good showing by Vanderbilt to be able to pump those numbers up, I always love it. Now, I will say though, it is interesting to see the talking heads now kind of back up and go, no, here's what we really think's going on here. And when you start to see this dust settle across the next few weeks, it's going to be very interesting as to who is actually real on these in these polls across the country and who's faking it. And of course, you always get that, but it is always interesting to see the power conferences go, wait a minute, we were supposed to have 7 teams in the college football playoff this year. Number 2, how about Utah starting off slow at Wyoming? They end up cruising in that second half to a 31-6 victory. I will say starting slow felt weird because they had so many yards. They had almost 300 yards of offense by the half and only 3 points to show for it. My thing was, hey, Utah fans, relax. They blew the doors off of Wyoming in the second half. Would you have preferred to blow the doors off in the first half and then have a vacant second half? I think the way that they ended is still a great indicator as to where this team is, and more importantly, Devin Dampier still looks phenomenal. Even during all of this, if you're going to get mad about a freshman kicker who didn't put enough points on the board, that's not where you should focus things. I think that they did it right. They scored 28 straight in the second half, and Utah's still really, really good. But yes, the 3-0 number was very concerning at the half, I think, for a lot of Utah fans.
We're all counting down to Saturday, Utah against Texas Tech, and headline number 3 is Texas Tech continues to destroy everyone in their path. They wrap up non-conference play with a blowout victory over Oregon State, 45-14, after a long weather delay.
Yeah.
Kicked off at, I think, 1:30 local time. Didn't get over until about 7:30. It was on all day, that Texas Tech game. But Utes and Red Raiders, we'll get to that game a lot coming up a little bit later in the show. But, man, we cannot wait for that one coming up on Saturday.
Yeah, I'm excited for it, and it's going to be an early one. It'll be weird in that sense because I think Rice-Eccles Stadium is at its best when it's dark out. But everybody will be in that even playing field. It's going to be early for everybody, so there you go. Houston, you and I both called it.
We did.
We didn't like the Colorado Buffaloes going into Houston and showing up Willie Fritz. They just looked a little bit too out of sync, and it ended up being even worse for Colorado, whose quarterback woes continue. Ryan Staub is not the total answer, I don't think, yet for the Buffs. But more importantly, Houston's got a dang good offense this year compared to what they had last year. Now, that's not saying much, but Connor Regman's brought some type of energy there, and Houston is going to get wins this year in the conference when you might see other people go down. Houston's not going to be one of those teams. They're on the rise.
Yeah, Houston running back Dean Connor's been really good for the Cougs. And headline 5, time to panic with Colorado. I mean, the defense is a mess. They've got issues at quarterback. You brought up Ryan Staub. This might be a low point for Coach Prime. I know he had the 4-8 season in year 1 in the Pac-12. But it feels like, I mean, Houston could be a really good team, potentially, this season. And they'll look back on this moment and say it was okay, but Colorado is struggling. They lack any sort of identity at the moment. Headline 6, Arizona gets a signature win under Brent Brennan by taking down Kansas State. They're 3-0, are the Arizona Wildcats.
Yeah, we smelled blood in the water last week. I think Arizona did too when they saw that K-State was struggling, and K-State struggling is actually, I think, way putting it lightly for that program there at Kansas State. The folks in Manhattan should be nervous. But to get back to Arizona, I think a great thing for them to build on, obviously, because they had such a down year last year. I think Noah Fafita and Brent Brennan kind of got together in the offseason and said, we got to make this thing special. And they're going to figure it out. And they have been so far. We'll see if it's real once they get into full conference slate. Not against Kansas State, but speaking of Kansas State, is their season over? I say yes. I mean, we talked about it early. To struggle against North Dakota, okay, bad. To lose against Army, terrible. You're now 1-3 on the season when across the street, the team that you played in Farmageddon, Iowa State, is just catapulting off that Ireland win, and they're 4-0. You went the opposite direction, and we aren't the only ones who have questions. Chris Kleiman has no idea what's going on with his own team.
And Kansas State, they're 1-3, but it feels like they're winless because that one win, as you said, was against North Dakota in close fashion and an FCS team. They have been a mess this season. And Iowa State, as you noted, headline 8, they survive at Arkansas State, fifth hottest game in the history of Iowa State football down in Jonesboro, Arkansas. The Cyclones hold on 24-16. They're now 4-0 on the season. Felt like it was just a team that was really tired after an international game, 3 straight weeks. So they played a lot of games in a short period of time. Now they're in the bye week, and Iowa State's flying high and highly ranked in the national rankings.
Yeah, the highest ranked of the Big 12 teams, and jumping out to that 4-0 start, exactly where Iowa State needed to be. But, people look and they go, hold on a minute, 8-point win against Arkansas State. This was a trap game all the way. Every time that they had this one on the schedule, they probably looked at it and went, do we buy ourselves out of this or what? Arkansas State at Arkansas State is a weird game to go play, but they survived, like you said, and you have to have games like that in the season if you're trying to go and do something special. How about Rich Rod and the backyard brawl in the Mountaineers of West Virginia? Getting a win in overtime against Pitt. I didn't think it was going to happen. Neither of us saw this one happening too. When their running back White went down, we said, no chance. Their quarterbacks haven't been playing great. And Rich Rod dug deep, got into the well of old Rich Rod magic, and they got the win against their big rival Pitt. That's a huge one for them because maybe they parlay that into something big time.
No question. It was a big win on the heels of losing to Ohio the week prior, who, by the way, Ohio kind of hung tough with Ohio State. Yeah. So maybe that's not as bad of a loss as we thought last week.
I said they've been strong in the MAC. I said to watch out for the Bobcats.
But these, I was also glad to see West Virginia and Pitt renewing their rivalry. They signed a long-term extension. They're going to be back in action 2029 to 2036. I know it's not a Big 12 matchup, but that is a great rivalry game in college football, and it was just fun to see that emotion and excitement from a West Virginia fan base that hasn't had many high moments really since they've been in the Big 12. And it was interesting, too. The last time Rich Rod was playing against Pitt, they lost in 2008. It was 13-9. They win on September 13th, 9-13. It was poetic for Rich Rod getting that backyard brawl win.
No, I'm not superstitious. I'm just a little stitious, says Mitch Harper. Brendan Sorsby, headline 10. The quarterback for Cincinnati throws 5 touchdowns in a quarter. Cincinnati goes up 56-0 before the half. Mitch against Northwestern State before putting up a 70-burger on them. And that, of course, inside of one of my favorite rules, which is a mercy rule in college football where they take time off the third and fourth quarter clocks. It's always the most embarrassing thing for a team to go, can you take 5 minutes off of each quarter? And you go, yep. So the rules are you got to take 5 minutes off of the third and the 5 minutes off of the fourth if you're up by a certain amount at the half. 56-0 was quite a bit. But more importantly, Cincinnati's got some nice juice in the after an almost, they really could have pulled it off against Nebraska. If they would have done that, we would have been talking about a very different Cincinnati team. I think they look pretty tough.
Yeah, they're going to be a team that knocks off some squads in Big 12 play. I really feel like they're going to get to a bowl game this year, and it's boom or bust for Scott Satterfield. If he needs to save his job, they've got to get to a bowl game. Headline 11, Arizona State bounces back after putting together a strong performance defeating future Pac-12 team, Texas State. They take down the Bobcats 34-15. The score doesn't seem all that great, but I thought that was a sound performance It was the best game I think that Arizona State's had this point of the season. And I think what was more noteworthy, too, was the fact that after a loss, you would think, okay, ASU fans are going to give up. They actually sold out that stadium in Tempe. Maybe Dillingham truly has activated the Valley like he's talked about so much. I thought that was something of note, too, because we know that fan base. When you lose, see you later. We'll talk to you another time. Yep. But they actually showed up after a loss. I thought that was significant, too.
Arizona State, Kenny Dillingham, don't count them out. They needed that. That was my upset watch of the week, and I was dead wrong on it, but good for Kenny Dillingham and his guys to reel that one back in, because this season could have gotten out of hand pretty quickly if they had 2 losses in a row. Finally, Baylor and TCU taking care of business against the FCS teams that they faced off against. A couple of the best quarterbacks in the conference, by the way, Sawyer Robertson and Josh Hoover, just still impressive. We'll see when it gets into conference play what these guys look like, but right now, both of those teams kind of humming. We'll see what happens this week, but excited to see what the quarterback conference is going to bring this week, Mitch, to the land of college football.
And that's your Big 12 headlines this week in Big 12 football. Let's take our first break. On the other side, we'll get some of the takeaways that we learned from Week 3 action. It's 1st and 12. Mitch Harper, Alex Kirry with you on a Tuesday night here on KSL News Radio.